Welcome to Homebrew by J.W. Martin Real Estate, where we uncover the true stories of what's brewing in South Carolina's local business scene. I'm Joey Martin, and each week we sit down with the ones who are pushing through the grind. Business owners, creators, and community leaders who have fought through the tough times and come out stronger. No fluff, just real stories, smart insights, and a whole lot of lessons learned the hard way. Let's dive in. Welcome to Homebrew, where we learn the stories behind our striving businesses. We'll discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship and business. I'm Joey Martin. I'm honored to welcome today's guest to Homebrew. He's an influencer, the creator of Gathering the Kings podcast and mastermind group. He's bought and sold numerous seven-figure businesses, a real estate investor, a man of faith, a father, a husband, and just an all-around good human being. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chaz Wolfe.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. That was quite the intro. Thanks for having me here, man.
Absolutely well-deserved. Hope all is well in your world.
Dude, man, it's rocking and rolling. Business is on fire. And as we were just talking right before we turned on the record button there, we're both excited about projects and always building, man. Like that's just what we're designed for. Excited to chat here today.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And going from that, you've established quite a level of success at a very young age, and that hasn't always been the case. Let's go back to the beginning. You and I share some commonality with the struggle of you had a single family household growing up. I had some challenges. My father was disabled, and which led to me growing up very early. Talk about that and go back to the beginning of when you first got started. Talk about how that kind of influenced you today. And let's just talk about the beginning of Chaz Wolfe's career.
Yeah. Yeah. Like very similar. I remember having you on my show. Was it like 2, maybe 3 years ago now? It's been a minute, but
Yeah, it has been.
hearing stories like even yours of the struggle and the come up and the completion of things that most people think are impossible, especially for people that have backgrounds like us. Single mom family. I didn't know my dad growing up and never really had a male role model or mentor, or for all intents and purposes, statistically speaking, I should have been incarcerated. I should have been in prison or in trouble. And you actually hit the nail on the head. You had to grow up a lot faster than maybe most kids. And I feel like that was probably my story as well. And so I started working when I was 12, construction and job site cleanups in the summer and concrete. In fact, I was just telling somebody else just the other day that all my friends went to the pool during the summer.
Yeah.
And they got their tan and they got to hang out and have fun all summer. And in order for me to get a tan, I had to work. And that wasn't the only reason I worked. It was for the tan. That was the benefit. I had to work because I needed the money.
Absolutely.
And so I worked, concrete and cleaning up job sites and stuff. But I was the 13, 14-year-old that took his shirt off finishing concrete foundations because I wanted a tan.
Wow. That's some tough labor.
It for sure is. 12, 13, 14, carrying forms and hammering huge forms in. And like all that was just life. I didn't know any different. I'm not good at construction today. It's not like I know I'm handy by any means at all, even though I own a construction company now, but it just the hard work aspect of it, the grit aspect of it, the fact of, okay, so if you want something, you're going to have to go get it. That was the way of life. My mom, single mom, working multiple jobs, just an absolute hustler.
Yeah.
To the nth degree and never resting, always at our school functions and basketball games and always working. I don't know how she did it. Just incredible, really. And so, from that environment, it was like, okay, I was like ready for life. Like at a very young age, I skipped boyhood, if you will. It's sad to think about, really, but it's made me who I am. It has positioned me to be able to think and make decisions that most grown adults don't have to, let alone teenagers. And so, that's probably what led to all of it. I was hungry, super ambitious. I got married young. I knew what I wanted. I knew I needed a wife who was going to be a partner and a co-pilot. And when I met her, we were in high school and it was like, I see you, I know where we're going. Yeah. And so, I think that was just me from an early age, just ambitious. I knew what I wanted, ready to make the moves, ready to take risk and pick up the pieces as we go.
That's really pretty cool because we share a lot of similarities there as well. Because from a very young age, I actually fibbed on my application to go work at Long John Silver's to be to work the fryer. Real sexy job there, but just wanted to work. The advice at home was was get out of school, go work at the mill, and that's what was considered
Yeah.
success. There was no
That
discussion
was the
of
only option.
college. Yeah, yeah, there was no discussion of school or anything like that, or business. There was nothing, no discussion about that sort of thing. So I can relate wholeheartedly, and also the respect that I have for my mother. You talk about stretching a dollar. As a teenager, at 13, 14 years old, you get so embarrassed when your mom's there with the double coupons and stuff like that in line at the grocery store. But I remember going hiding my face, worried that one of the kids would see my mom using coupons or something. Looking back, it seems
Right.
so silly now, but she'd use those double coupons and 75% off racks at the department stores, whatever it took to
Oh
make
yeah.
sure that we had what we need. And so yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, thank goodness for moms like that, right? Because can we get a little shout out to all the moms, dads too, but like all the moms that are just feisty and can figure it out, especially the single moms. It's creativity at its finest, to be honest. It's survival,
Right,
but
absolutely.
through that, the creative energy comes to life. And the unfortunate part for many of those people, and then many people like us that grew up in those environments, is that they might still have a creative or even like that grit and that willing to fight, but the fear of that environment or the fear of losing the money or the fear of whatever never allows them to come out of that.
Right.
And like what you're saying about the mill, it's here's the safe route. Like you graduate, you go to the mill, you pinch the pennies, you use the coupons. And my mom didn't know anything about business. She's creative and she's a problem solver, but she didn't know how to start a business or run a business or that there was even like more options really. So she couldn't like help me in that. And so at a pretty early age, it was really just okay. I if you want designer stuff, like I'm not going to get it for you. It's not that I
Right.
wouldn't want to. I'd love to, but it's not going to happen. And so if you want that, or you want a car at 16, you want to like whatever, like literally, if you need anything, basically from 12 on, go get it. And she believed in me.
Yeah.
She's been my biggest cheerleader, but no real like tactical, like here's how to go be successful. Again, it's just straight grit and all those things. And so I just give a huge shout out to those moms, and specifically mine, but even for people like us who are listening, who grew up in those environments, because it still takes a lot to be able to break that mold
Right.
of either thinking or having lack or fear. And even if there isn't just like a stronghold per se, you can still like just get stuck in complacency. Like it just is what it is, as opposed to no, like it doesn't have to be how life is. If other people are winning in some direction somehow, then surely I can. I
Right.
just have missing information, or I have missing connections, or I have missing something, and then that should spur up the fire for them to go after it, which I think is what you and I did, even from an early age of just going, look, I'm just going to go figure it out. And along the way, really, what do I have to lose? That would be my to the younger Chaz, to the younger Joe, the people that grew up in that environment. It's like you don't have anything to lose, man. What are you so afraid of? And so, I think it's not until later you start to have a little bit of success, which everybody starts. That's had our journey of, especially coming from nothing and then having some success. You reach a certain point, and then that same level of fear comes back because then it's like, what if you lose it all?
Right.
What if it goes away?
Absolutely. And
Which is a whole nother mindset level to go to. But
it's
yeah, it's powerful, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to be able to break that mold.
yeah. Yeah, it's there is certainly a fear that comes along with the success of I never want to go back there again. I never want to go back to poor again. And so you become more hesitant with your decisions and less of
Yeah.
a risk taker,
Which is totally not how you got out of the situation to begin with.
which is
We
there's probably some good.
start cutting off the creative energy.
Yeah, and yeah, there's that's right. You become less creative and more,
Yeah.
I guess, less and more risk averse, which
Yeah.
is not necessarily a bad thing. But sometimes I tell
Yeah,
you,
there's
man,
there's gotta be a play. There's a map, right? That you can't just risk it all every single time, but
right,
it's funny how we as humans, we do things that get us results, and then we're so quick to give up on those things that got us results. I see this in companies that are in our mastermind community or even buddies of mine. It's like, they might try a new lead strategy, a new marketing strategy that gets leads, and then, like, it starts working, and then they're crushing it, and then they switch, and it's like, "Why'd you this other thing looked cool," and or how many guys have you seen, you and me included, because we both had multiple businesses along the way, but you do one business and you're like, let me try this business. It has nothing to do with it at all, but let me try this one way over here and see if I can be good at this.
yeah,
It's like, actually, that's not good either.
and that you end up being terrible at mediocre at two businesses.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, yep. Which
exactly.
is I've certainly now, with the exception of, and I would say, I think in my world of real estate, I've got JW Martin Real Estate and investments and property management. It's all within the same. It's different
Right.
businesses, but all within the same kind of category.
Yeah,
But
they serve the
there's
same
always a shiny object that comes up. That's I
for
want to
sure.
go. I want to go over there and try that because it looks sexy and easy and looks like easy money. But there's no such
Yep.
thing.
Nope,
No
there
such
isn't. There
thing.
really isn't. There really isn't.
Yep. So
Which is why I think in that moment of like when you have later in life, when you have a little bit of success, it doesn't have to be later, like meaning you're older, but after you've had some success and you think, shoot, what if I lose it all? And then you start having those fear, like we were just talking about. I've had that conversation multiple times with myself, and it's like, what if? Okay, what if it all goes to zero?
yeah,
I would just go start another one. Like
yeah.
it.
It's,
Okay. So I'd grind for a year or two or three. Okay, we'd sell our beautiful estate and go live in one of our rental properties, or shoot, we'd rent. Okay, fine. But what? But really, would it take me 2, 3 years really to get back to? Probably not. And there's some place where you've learned it's not. I didn't get here by luck. I got here by what I learned and who I know and the strategies that I can put those people and things, tactics together into. And sure, it can be taken from me, but I'm just going to keep going.
yeah. So for me, when I first got started, and it seems pretty commonplace amongst, I've got a pretty big team of real estate agents, and it seems pretty common that when people first get started, not everyone, but they're just flying by the seat of their pants. And I knew it was the case for me. I didn't. I, there was no real plan. It was just like you say, grit and
Yeah,
just survival mode.
for sure.
Did you go through a period of that, and then when did you discover systems and processes, and how did
Yeah.
you discover them?
Yeah, good question. So I was turning 20, 24, turning 25 when I bought my first big boy business. I had the lawn care and the this, that, and the other as a young kid scenario. But 24, turning 25, I bought my first edible arrangements franchise. And I left my corporate six-figure sales leader job and jumped into business. It was an existing location. 6 months later, I bought another existing location. Both of those were like almost $500,000 SBA loans at 25 years old. I started three brand new locations in a couple different cities, and then I ended up buying another one. So it's a total of seven.
Wow.
I think I did the math there, but total of seven in 4 years. And so in that process, like the franchise had systems, which was helpful to be able to follow certain things. But as I grew from two to three locations in the same city, I'm one of those guys that I go hard, I go fast, early, late, it literally whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And you can't be in three places at once, but I was in three places at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were three different locations, literally in the city, but I could be in all three places within an hour. I was doing everything on all places. But my fourth location was when I was in a city 3 hours away. Fifth location was back in Kansas City. The sixth one was back 3 hours away, and then the seventh one I bought in Florida. And so that all happened like within the same like month. And so when I switched from being what I would say like a mom and pop thinker
Yeah.
to I have to do everything differently because I can't just drive over to my Florida location or I can't just drive down to the Wichita, Kansas locations. I could, but it would have taken an hour or
Right.
hours, 3 or 4 hours to get there, depending upon traffic in the day and stuff. And so I had to be thinking differently about how to solve problems because I forced myself because of the risks I was taking as
Yeah.
far as opening up to so many locations and so fast in so many different random locations. I remember people telling me like, if you got four in Kansas City, we understand Wichita, that's only 3-ish hours away, but like Florida, why did you do that? And my response at that time, I remember being 28 or so, being like, why not? It's freaking Florida.
Yeah.
But that frame of just go
Yeah.
initially, like what you're talking about, that like just wing it, just figure it out along the way,
Yeah.
leaned into shoot, I can't really just wing it at this. It had become big enough to where every decision meant more. It cost me more money if I made the wrong mistake or whatever. And so you have to start thinking in systems. You have to start thinking in a team, in a model of who's leading who and who reports to who and who's responsible for what in specific. How are we reporting on this? How are we tracking this? Who's like all of it? And there's people systems, there's operation systems, there's sales systems, there's a system in every single part of the business. And so that was a huge learning curve for me. But what I would say to the listener is, and this happens almost every single time, is that you jump off the cliff, you start the business or you buy the business. You don't really know what you're doing. I was 24 years old. I had never been to college. I had never, I like, I raised single mom family. I didn't know anything other than I knew that I wanted to be a business owner. I learned sales, obviously, and I'd learned leadership. I was leading a very successful sales team for a corporate organization. And so inside of me just jumping, like most people do, which is what I see, I had to then not stay there.
Right.
One, I was forced to grow and think in systems because of the way I was growing the organization, which a lot of people get stagnant and they just kind of stay like that one location or two locations or whatever their business was that is. And so there's no need to press the buttons. Sure, you can systemize, optimize, make it better. But like for me, a big part of me forcing myself to do that was my growth trajectory, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then eventually, if you're not running on systems, then you're just going to die. Literally, you're going to exhaust yourself. You're wearing all the hats. Like you're just going to burn out. The business is going to go under, or you're going to give up, or you're going to sell it, or whatever. You can't have a long, successful business career thinking mom and pop. Not unless you
Right.
just want to stay that small and always be mom and pop and always be the delivery driver or be the real estate agent or be whatever. That's not being a business owner and it's definitely not being an investor.
It makes a lot of sense. And when I think about probably the most obvious difference for a listener to relate to is the other day, and I hate to admit it, but I eat fast food occasionally. But I went through one of the various fast food places, and just the greeting that I received when I pulled up to the speaker, and it just sounded horrific. But then you think about probably one of the best franchises that out there, and I'm not promoting any franchises, is like Chick-fil-A. You go to
Sure.
Chick-fil-A, every single Chick-fil-A, it's the same. How may we serve you? And it's
Yeah.
so warm and welcoming and refreshing. And you see a line of cars backed
Right.
up to the road at every single location. And I think that's probably one of the biggest and easiest examples that people could relate to as far as the difference in systems, the difference that systems make is that
Oh yeah.
every single one of those Chick-fil-A locations is the same, uses
Yeah.
the same practices.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, the other ones use same practices, but there's a differentiator there of how people are treated. So that particular system
yeah,
around human development and in human relationship is what I think has helped them explode. So interesting. Like so many brands exploded during COVID and so many died. And I think a lot of it came down to how did you handle the situation? How did you handle people? Did they feel seen, felt, heard, whatever?
yeah,
And I think that's what ultimately what you're describing from that brand.
yeah. I think you're right on that. But yeah, as far as probably the most common mistakes that you see, you deal with entrepreneurs on a daily basis in your mastermind groups, and you've coached many. What are some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs can make, and what do you think are some of the ways they could avoid them?
Yeah. First off, I think I'd like to preface by saying mistakes or failure, even, is how you learn, it's how you grow, it's how you develop. I think, although it's a valid question and I'm going to answer it, I think the listener potentially might be bent to, oh no, I don't want to. I don't want to make that mistake. And I think that's fine that you listen to podcasts like this and other amazing guests that Joey has on this show to be able to learn and go, okay, cool. If I can learn from Chaz's experience, then I don't necessarily have to experience that same pain, but there's still usually something for you to learn and you're going to experience mistakes and failure. And I preface that by a long time ago I realized that and was like, okay, I just need to hurry up and make all the mistakes. If success and winning is on the other side, then well, I don't want to need to run from them. I need to run to them, through them. And probably one of the most obvious ones, we've kind of already talked about it, is that business owner is scrappy, full of grit, willing to do whatever it takes. And that mentality gets you to a certain level in business to where maybe you've got a couple of team members, typically a team of 10 or less, and you're doing the thing. It feels awesome because everybody needs you and you're running around and you feel like you're a hero. It's not only your clients, but also, your team members and you feel accomplished because man, like I had to work like 16 hours today, and then you get home and you're like beat your chest and you're like I'm gonna work. I'd rather work 80 hours for myself than 40 hours for somebody else, and all
Right.
those cliche entrepreneur phrases, which are good, but that doesn't carry you on. And so at some point, that person never, unless they unlock the next level, which is to be able to think in duplication, right? And so there's different levels of duplication, but you've got to think in duplications of system. That could be your sales process, that could be your operations process, that could be SOPs, it could be your operating system that you run meetings on. There's so many different levels to duplication when it comes to systems. And then on top of that, you have to now start building a team. Yeah, so you've got 3, 4, 5 people on your team, but you're still doing everything at that point as the entrepreneur. And so the mistake is staying in that spot, like we talked about a few minutes ago, because ultimately the end result is burnout. Now,
Right.
most entrepreneurs are so stubborn, they don't actually ever burn out, that they complain, they say business ownership is hard, and those things are true, but it doesn't always have to be like that. If you're always analyzing whatever the current bottleneck is and then relieving it with a system or a person, then actually it can become rather awesome as a game. And so that's mistake number one, is staying in that mode for too long, not recognizing how can I duplicate through a person or a process. And really then that game gets leveled up kind of as you grow in revenue or grow in size. Like it's always the same breakthrough, but it looks different at every stage. That's probably by far the biggest, man. Most businesses don't do over $1 million in sales. And that's 91% of businesses don't do over 7 figures. Most guys are just them and one other person, if that, and they basically own a job.
Right.
They don't actually have a business.
I
So
can certainly remember, like, proudly saying, I put in 16 hours last night,
yeah, yeah.
yesterday, and
Trying to get a cookie.
proudly saying I fielded 80 calls today, like from customers, not outgoing.
Yep.
Not, this is I like saying it with pride and not realizing, hey, you need some help. You need to delegate
Yeah.
that out. You're losing business because there's no way you're properly handling 80 calls. Yeah, I can
I think
remember.
that so many entrepreneurs they don't recognize rather that it's really just their addiction to being needed, to being a hero, to being the guy. Because when you say that out loud, or whether you were saying it to yourself or someone else, that's really all you were looking for. Is you were looking for some sort of credit.
That's
You
right.
were looking for someone to be like,
Yep.
dude,
Whoa.
clap, clap,
Yeah.
clap. Let me give you a cookie. Let me give you an award. Let me pat you on the back. And the truth is that nobody's going to do that anyway.
Right.
Nobody actually cares if you fleeted 80 phone calls
Right.
or fielded 80 phone calls. The people who actually care are going to be like your family, your spouse, your kids, the foundation that you're helping kids through, or whatever your bigger why is.
Right.
Those are the people that matter, and they're the ones that you're robbing from, most likely,
Yes.
to field your addiction to 80 calls and feeling important,
That's right.
you know?
You're absolutely right. And that probably brings you to my next point, something that I know that's extremely important to you. And that is, and I think that we see things very similarly with this, is work-life balance. Is there a such thing? And why do people feel the need to separate the two? If you will,
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in balance. I had a guy on my show that was like, balance is all the work that you do to get onto the wave. And then you ride the wave for about, what, 10 seconds? And then boom, you're off the wave again. So it's like that balance moment of perfectly on the wave rarely happens. It doesn't mean that you're not shooting for it, shooting for synergy or optimization in all areas, but it's not the goal. It can't be the goal. For me personally, what I realized, because again, like we've already mentioned, super successful early on, and I was winning awards in the franchise. I was winning awards locally. Who's this 27-year-old multi-unit franchisee doing millions of dollars a year? Became a millionaire in my 20s. I'm starting to buy real estate. I'm all this stuff. And it's okay, cool. But like, I can tell you at home, my wife felt like a single mom. I
Right.
can tell you of a circumstance when she had family photos and I wasn't in them, you know? So
Wow.
it's holy smokes. Like when you think about the weight of that, it's not that we had a bad marriage. It's not that I was a bad dad. There was a elevation to my obsession in business
Mhm.
as opposed to my obsession with my marriage or my obsession with my kids or my obsession with my health. And so I don't think the solution is to have balance, which means to lower my obsession in business. For
Right.
me, I'm an obsessive person. Most entrepreneurs are. We're either all in or we're all out, and we're going to burn the bridges all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So utilizing that, knowing how God made me, and I'm like, okay, I don't actually need to decrease anything in business. My obsession can still remain high towards success and winning. I just need to increase my obsession with my wife because she's hot too.
Right.
And I need to obsess with her. And then and my kids, I need to see my kids differently because playing Uno with a 3-year-old doesn't quite hit like getting a new real estate deal. But I'll tell you what does hit, using that little game called Uno to reframe and teach my son and daughter how to think Had
Yeah.
nothing to do with Uno, had nothing to do with the game. It had everything to do with in that moment, I'm building my child, I'm building my legacy,
Right.
just like I got to build a business or build a team member. And so
That's
reframing those things of, oh, I get to increase my obsession in these areas. I get to increase my obsession with my health, right? So I'm working out a couple times a week. Cool. Then I'm going to increase it to 5 times a week. Then I'm going to start working with a trainer. Then I'm going to start eating right. And I'm not going to go to the fast food places or whatever that level is that is next. It's life, business, family, health, all these things. They're just a game of levels. And
yeah.
so just because I personally haven't eaten sugar in 2 years, not haven't had caffeine for 10 months, super optimized on my diet, my health, that doesn't mean that's your next level. Maybe your
Right.
next level is just making sure you're working out 3 times a week. And for the most part, you just don't choose to eat out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So do that for 6 months. And then what's the next level? And then what's the next level? And so my obsession became, how do I get to the next level in all these areas? How do I win in all areas? Not just because that's how we think in business, right? That's the first thing we did. We popped on
Right.
here. Both of us were like, "Hey, you got a cool deal. This is a real estate thing. We were thinking about developing this. There's always something new. There's always another level. Great. What's that
Absolutely.
level for your spouse? What's that level for your family? What's that level for your health?" And becoming obsessed with that, having that same energy that I've got towards my winning in business, I can just apply it to all areas. It's like, oh no, I can get behind that. That makes sense. You know what I mean?
It does. Yeah, it really does. And I feel like a lot of within my real estate team and just entrepreneurs in general feel like they have to just completely separate the two things. This, if I'm, you like, you can't have be successful at both. It's like you're choosing one
Right.
or the other. And
Yeah.
I think you're living it where you're successful at more than just family and business, but family, business, health, everything you're talking about. It's
It's intentionality, right? Like
right.
when you think about your business, like we've known each other for a few years now. And I remember like when you were implementing a new operating system and you had a person coming in to help you run those types of meetings. And I remember you intentionally growing your real estate team from this many agents to this many agents. And all of that is intentionality. You intentionally sat down and thought about where you wanted to go. You intentionally sat down and thought about, okay, so in order to go there, what needs to die? What needs to grow? What needs to change? And you started to make a plan. And
Yeah.
in that plan, there was even more intentionality of, okay, on Tuesdays, we're going to do this and we're going to use this program and we're going to follow this metric system and whatever. It's all intentionality. It's using my mind to think, plan, and then execute with intentionality. Okay, great. What does that look like for my spouse? Do I meet regularly with my spouse? Do we talk about the future? Do we talk about our relationship? Do we talk about sex? Because sex is awesome. I like to have lots of it. But
Right.
if we aren't on the same page, then guess what? Probably not going to be awesome and we're probably not going to have lots of it.
Right.
So all it really is the same thing that we talk about in business of systems, process, people, and it's intentionality. And
Yeah.
so great. How
Most
can I bring
definitely.
intentionality to my health? Okay, whatever level you're at, like I said, maybe it's just that you just don't eat at Chick-fil-A anymore.
Right.
That is intention. It's going, I consciously recognize this piece of information is either helpful to me or it's not helpful to me into getting what I want.
Right.
And so if it's helpful to me to get what I want, I'm going to do it. If it's not helpful to me to get what I want, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like that's my decision making frame in life, pretty much. Pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. When you break it down to that simple, it makes it easier. And it's our own thoughts and overthinking that makes things much more difficult than they need to be. That
Sure.
kind of hold us back. But Chaz, my goodness, man, we could talk all day. I know, and
I
without
know.
question, we could talk all day about this stuff. I always love the opportunity to speak with you, and I think the listeners are going to benefit greatly from having an opportunity to learn from you. How can the listeners find you and find out more about you and the various ventures you have?
For sure. I appreciate that. I'll tell them here in just a second. But before you do anything with me, I want you to smash the like and the share and the 5-star button for Joey's show here, Homebrew, because bringing guests on that continually bring you guys a listener value is not easy. It's happening on top of all his other businesses. And he actually cares about his local community and the businesses that he's building, the team members that he has. And if this has been valuable to you, make sure that you show him through that subscribe or the 5-star review on the podcast session. That would
Thank
be
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
As far as Chaz Wolfe and Gathering the Kings, you can go to gatheringthekings.com. And if being in a community with other high value entrepreneurs and their families, we help people grow their businesses, we help people grow their marriages, we help people grow in their health and their faith and their lifestyle. And the uniqueness about us is that it's not just Chaz's inner circle or Chaz is the guru, not at all. In fact, I've brought way more people to the table that have developed just as much success, if not even more, in certain areas than I have. That's why it's called Gathering the Kings. It's not gathering the Chaz, it's gathering all kinds of kings together and queens, of course. And we get to bring value to each other. That's a true mastermind. And if that's exciting to you, where you're family oriented, you're down to earth, you're growth minded, and you want to be in a community or come on some of our family events or whatnot that can help you grow and your whole family grow, go to gatheringthekings.com, and there's a little application there that'll book a call with our team, and we'd love to chat with you.
Awesome, Chaz. Thank you so much. I think that goes back. If you're the smartest guy at the table, you need a new table. So it's always nice to always be looking for a table with people that have more wisdom than you do. And so I really appreciate that, you adding that there. And yeah, absolutely. That benefited greatly as a member of Gathering the King. So I wanted you to know that. And I definitely appreciate the friendship and relationship.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Blessings to you.
But yeah, thanks again, Chaz, and thanks to the listeners. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Homebrew, where local entrepreneurs share their stories, challenges, and victories. Remember, every big business started with a bold idea and the courage to take the first step. So stay inspired, keep building, and join us next time as we continue to celebrate and support our local business community. Until then, keep hustling and making an impact right here at home. Thanks again for listening. That's it for this episode of Homebrew. If it resonated with you or gave you a fresh perspective, share it with someone else who's working hard to make their mark. Subscribe, stay curious, and remember, no matter the challenge, keep pushing forward, because success is brewed one step at a time. We'll see you next time. Same place, new story.